Megumi Fushiguro already is the strongest character in the series, and he has already surpassed Sukuna and Gojo. And today I'll be talking about all the power-ups he's gonna get, such as the 10 shadows practically making him a god and all the abilities he will get from it, the domain secrets of the Chimera Shadow Garden, and how this will actually be the key to winning the series, Megumi potentially getting Sukuna's techniques such as Cleave and Dismantle, and of course Megumi's role as the honored one at the end of the story. There is a lot to talk about, so if you're a Megumi fan, you're definitely going to want to watch all the way until the end. So hey, do your boy solid and leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content. Only 10% of people who actually watch my videos are subscribed. So if you want to see a ton of crazy theory videos like this one, spoiler videos on chapters when they come out, analysis videos, power scaling, trust me, if you're a JJK fan, I would really recommend subscribing, you will not regret it. And of course, thank you to the special group members of the channel, Ever Aaron and That Guy Trey. Let us get into this Megumi video. Alright, so before I even talk about how strong he's going to be and all of his potential abilities, it's pretty important to answer the question, is Megumi even alive right now after Sukuna reincarnated and transformed and morphed the body of Megumi into Sukuna's body? And the answer is actually yes, Megumi's soul is alive, and technically it is Megumi's body, although Sukuna has just morphed it into the shape of his own, or he's just reincarnated his body using Megumi's original body, but the original body is still there, and even if it's not there, it's possible his body may be gone forever. What we know for a fact is that his soul is still there. Now, it's actually said that most of the incarnated players have actually morphed their bodies using this transformation that Sukuna just did, and that's actually why they look so similar to how they did back in their own day. So it's why characters like Kashimo and Ryu, they look remarkably similar to how they did in the Edo period, and all the way down to even their very bone structures. It's very identical. And GEGE actually said in the author's comment for chapter 237 that Yorozu actually already did this transformation, so that's why she wasn't able to pull it out at the end to heal, but what she specifically didn't morph was her face, only her face, though the rest of her body was actually her Heian body. And obviously we know the reason she kept her face, but what I'm trying to say is that Angel actually already confirmed that when these incarnated sorcerers actually do this reincarnation transformation, it's not like the soul of the host that they are taking over is destroyed. It's still there, it's still alive and kicking, it's just been deeply suppressed. So all the incarnated sorcerers that you see, like Reggie, Udo, Ryu, and Kashimo, they actually house two different souls, the souls of the original person and of course their own souls. And of course this was confirmed when Gojo actually looked into Megumi's body, or I guess I should say Sukuna's body during the fight, and with his 6 eyes he sees Megumi's soul very clearly. His soul is still in there. It was important to actually answer this question because I always get the comments, is Megumi dead? Megumi's finally dead? No, I don't believe he's dead. And if somehow he can get his body back, or if they remove Sukuna's soul, it is possible, though this is just a theory and a guess, that maybe the body would actually revert back to how Megumi's body originally was. But even if it doesn't, it would be really cool to see Megumi with 4 arms. That would be pretty badass, I can't lie. Alright, and now it's actually time to talk about how strong Megumi is and why I truly believe that he is going to be the strongest character end of series. The first reason is that Megumi is deeply soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy, and it's not like Yuji, who just had 15 fingers, and where Sukuna was only active just a handful of times, maybe for less than 20 minutes in total of the entire time he was inside of Yuji, who was actually even in control, whereas in Megumi, he's been in full control for well over a whole month. And not only that, Sukuna took a bath to actually deepen his cursed energy, or specifically the evil, I will talk about this bath soon, that actually makes Sukuna have even more control. It is ingraining his cursed technique even more on the Megumi body. So if you think Yuji was strong just because he's got some of 15 fingers Sukuna's cursed energy, imagine Megumi with 20 fingers worth of cursed energy, and he has got a prime amount, he has got all of it. Even when Sukuna leaves, like we saw with Yuji, he's gonna keep that. He is going to be an absolute demon. His speed, power, durability, defense, all of his stats will just drastically boost, and they will be at least on Sukuna's level, though there is the caveat that even though Sukuna has all this power, what makes Sukuna strong is the way he actually utilizes it, right? It's not like he's just throwing around this power aimlessly. He has refined it to a godlike extent, as said by Kashimo, to the point that his efficiency, refinement, and reinforcement is off the charts. So even if Megumi does get his cursed energy, Sukuna's skills overall will still be a good amount stronger than Megumi, though it's possible, and this is just a theory, that Megumi actually might be able to do this level of refinement or skill that Sukuna has. And this is because we saw from Yuji's POV is that Yuji kept all the memories when Sukuna was active and when he was killing everyone in Shibuya, or when he was doing this, that, and the other. Yuji was aware of everything that was happening and he kept those memories. So right now, Megumi should be completely aware of what's going on, though he can't move, right? He's in that fetus position. It's kind of depressing to see him like that, I'm gonna be honest. But maybe he would actually just learn how Sukuna is doing all this refinement, or maybe it would become, let's say, second nature, right? It would just become a natural habit of the body, so maybe that's how he's gonna be able to do that. It's really unclear, not that likely, but at the very least, what is likely is he's gonna have as much cursed energy as Sukuna, which is already more than double Yutas, so he's gonna be something that we've never seen before. And remember that when Uraume is actually describing the bath, it's actually said that when you go into the bath, it's basically soaking you in evil. You're going deeper and deeper into evil. It's submerging Megumi into the darkness. And this actually theory that many people have, that as the body is getting more evil and submerging more into darkness, this is actually making Megumi's power stronger, because obviously his whole abilities are shadows and darkness, and it revolves around that. So unintentionally, right now, Sukuna is making Megumi a whole lot stronger by doing the bath, by making him more evil. evil by pushing him further and further into the deep darkness. So when Megumi finally does pop out and he's got control, if that does happen, he's gonna actually have that evil amp and it's gonna make his 10 shadows stronger as well. And I'm gonna be honest, I actually really like that theory. At first I wasn't on board with it, but the concept does check out, and most importantly, it sounds really cool. So if it does happen, I would be totally okay with it. Now as for his Shikigami powers that I think he's gonna get, right, there's this whole meme going around where even if Megumi gets his body back, all his Shikigami are actually dead and he doesn't have any of his powers left. Now the key thing is one, it's not confirmed that they're all dead, right? Maybe some of them are left, though the stronger ones such as Orochi, Nue, Round Ear, Mahoraga, and the rest are all gone, even Morning Tiger. But remember, totality does still exist, and of course in theory he actually should be able to put all of the energy that Mahoraga had, all of his powers, into another Shikigami just like he does with the other one, since Mahoraga is still a Shikigami of the 10 shadows. So whatever totality creature he has, just imagine it's actually Agito and Mahoraga combined, their cursed energy, power, strength, defense, and abilities. It's gonna be an absolute monster. And even if that's not the case, we actually saw that Sukuna was utilizing Max Elephant's water in base, and that's actually how he was using the piercing water that he was using, which was mimicking the piercing blood, basically doing it with water. Now we aren't too sure if the Max Elephant is still alive since Sukuna never summons it, so it's possible that he's only using the Max Elephant's power because it's still alive, or it's possible that the only reason he's actually able to use the Max Elephant's water power in base is because it's dead. The reason we don't know is because the 10 Shadows has two specific abilities in which Sukuna is actually utilizing to use Max Elephant's power. Obviously the first one is just totality, right? That's the one everyone knows, where if a Shikigami dies, its power goes to the other Shikigami. It's possible that Sukuna, as the caster, is using himself as the totality, so rather than letting Max Elephant's power go into another Shikigami, he's actually putting it into himself. Or it's possible that Sukuna is actually using the Wells Unknown Abyss, an ability some of you probably haven't even heard of before. Pretty much it's an ability where, just like the totality, you can actually combine Shikigamis, but it is quite different where the Shikigami's combination aren't going to be as strong, right? You're not fusing the cursed energy. Specifically, you're just putting attributes of certain Shikigami onto other Shikigami. Maybe Sukuna is actually using an extension technique similar to or a variation of the Wells Unknown Abyss to sort of put the water power in his base. Regardless, what I'm trying to say is that it's possible that Megumi could actually use all his Shikigami's power, potentially even the ones that have died in his own base. So he would have reverse curse technique from the round it, and the reverse curse technique would basically cost nothing since it's coming from a curse technique. So normally for reverse curse technique, even just healing a limb would cost a massive amount of cursed energy, even for someone like Yuta. Where if he does it too much, eventually he'll run out, but if he has the Rounder's ability, then he can just use it and it will barely cost any cursed energy. You could have the Bull's attack in base where it actually make his attack stronger as he's going forward. You could have Mahoraga's adaptation in base, which would basically make him a god. That'd be very cool to see. Maybe he could give himself Nue's wings and fly and shoot out electricity just like Nue does. The possibilities are endless, and it would be so cool to see him using these in base, if not just creating a totality that's basically a combination of everything he's had before. And as for the Chimera Shadow Garden domain expansion, I actually think this is going to be such a crazy ability that has been used many times, and you've seen it progressively getting stronger throughout the series. When Megumi uses this, it is just going to be the most OP thing we've ever seen. Now, it's actually questionable if Sukuna could use the Chimera Shadow Garden, right? Because he's in Megumi's body, and even though it's not his domain, maybe he could expand it because there's a loophole there, right? But it appears not. When he actually expands his domain expansion, it's always the Malevolent Shrine. And in theory, he should be able to switch out the sure hit so he could use the 10 Shadows sure hit, but what would never change is the actual domain itself, right? The big shrine in the middle. It's similar to how when Kenjaku casts his domain expansion, it's very clear that his domain expansion comes from himself. It actually seems to be his innate domain expansion that he probably had back in the Heian era, or however far back he comes from. He may be older than that, since the Womb Profusion just has deep ties to Kenjaku's past and everything he's done, and especially even his body swapping technique. But even so, when he put Kairi Chidori's anti-gravity and put the reversal as a sure hit, which was crazy, the domain itself never changed even when he swapped out the sure hit. What I'm trying to say is that maybe Sukuna can use the 10 Shadows as a sure hit, but never actually use the Chimera Shadow Garden domain itself. And the reason I think this is important is because when Megumi actually uses it, and let's say he's got all of Sukuna's cursed energy, obviously he's got the experience of being inside of Sukuna, so he may actually be able to now know how to do an open domain after having the knowledge and experience and seeing it firsthand, and even feeling it in his own body firsthand of Sukuna casting an open domain several times in the Gojo vs Sukuna fight. He would be able to cast the perfected open domain of the Chimera Shadow Garden. And remember, because he's sunk deeper into the shadows and he's got more evil in him, maybe that domain would actually become stronger since it is a darkness domain. Now imagine him summoning multiple versions of himself, all of which are close to as strong as even he himself is, if not as strong. Or summoning multiple Shikigami, like whatever new totality he has, he can summon multiple of them. And remember, not only can he have multiple Shikigami inside of his domain and create copies of them, but they actually become more accurate. So we saw that the Max Elephant actually became heavy inside a domain and had more accurate weight to an elephant. So it's possible that just generally being in the domain, they will become stronger. And that's not even including the sure hit that he's gonna have. And of course, this isn't even talking about the Gashodu Kudu skeleton that he may have in his domain expansion. As you saw inside of his domain, he has that skeleton spine in there. But it's possible that the only way to activate the Gashodu Kudu is to fully complete complete the Chimera Shadow Garden, which we've never seen before, so it'd be really cool if he can do that. Or maybe you'd need to lose all of your Shikigami and then you can summon the skeleton. And in case you guys aren't aware, the Goshodo Kudu is a spirit that takes the form of a giant skeleton made up of skulls of people who died in the battlefield, and is usually 10 or more meters tall. And shout out Wikipedia for this information as well. And it's pretty interesting that it's made up of the people who died in the battlefield. Maybe the skeleton is actually made up of all of the Shikigami that have died in the past, making it truly the final totality, where the bones and corpses of all the Shikigami that have passed actually go into the skeleton, and when the 10th one has died, the skeleton is created. The eyes are usually burning, either yellow or green, and the Goshodo Kudu usually wanders around at night and just attacks and eats any human it sees. And when it approaches, it is said that it makes a clattering sound of its teeth that goes gachi gachi. However, they're also known to be stealthy when approaching humans they wish to eat. And here's the craziest part, the Goshodo Kudu are said to possess the powers of invisibility and indestructibility, since it is composed of the bones of the people who are already deceased. And again, if it really is the final totality, then this makes sense since it would have Mahoraga's adaptation. This thing, I really hope it's true. I thought Sukuna was the one who's going to be able to use it, but it's even better if Megumi's going to be able to use it, because it'd be cool to see Megumi finally utilize the full 10 shadows. It's been great to see Sukuna use it all, but it is Megumi's technique at the end of the day. And it's also possible that maybe Megumi's actually going to get Sukuna's techniques as well, since they're going to be ingrained on his body, and we'll only know for certain once we see chapter 239 and we see if Yuji actually has Sukuna's techniques. If Sukuna really is using Cleaviness Mantle on his arm, whether or not he ate a finger, I think Megumi actually might be able to use it himself, because he's soaked in so much of Sukuna's cursed energy, and because he's been controlled for so long, and because of the bath as well. Now, if Megumi has Cleaviness Mantle on top of everything else I just said, yeah, it's just going to be too much. I mean, who is going to stop this guy? Seriously, I mean, who? It always seemed like the one thing that the 10 Shadows was lacking was just pure lethality. Though, of course, it makes sense since the 10 Shadows is such a well-balanced technique where it gives you a variety of Shikigami of all of these various abilities as well, but just having a Cleaviness Mantle invisible slash that you can fire whenever, that would just one-shot most people. I mean, as far as we're aware, there's only 2 characters in the series that can even see a Cleaviness Mantle. Now, I'm gonna be honest, as cool as this is, I actually hope he doesn't get Cleaviness Mantle or any of Sukuna's other abilities such as the Fire Arrow or whatever else he has. The reason being is because it would just be way too strong, right? It would be far too powerful, and I really do like Megumi just sticking to the 10 Shadows, and whatever else the 10 Shadows has, I do think it has a lot left, even though people think it's just done for. I hope he just sticks to that, and I don't think the 10 Shadows are done for. I think the only reason Sukuna stopped using it is because he doesn't need it. The only reason he was using the 10 Shadows to begin with in all that Gojo vs Sukuna fight, as he said himself, it was just so Mahoraga finds an adaptation so he can bypass the Limitless. If Gojo never had the Limitless, he would have never even used the 10 Shadows to begin with, and he would have just been using Cleaviness Mantle right from the beginning. And of course, because no one else has the Limitless, he's just going to be using Cleaviness Mantle moving forward from this point. And I actually think that at the end of the series, Megumi is actually going to be the strongest character. It's either going to be Megumi or Yuji, if either of them are even alive. You know, we don't even know if they'll live at the end of the series. But if Megumi does survive, I could really just see him being the next Gojo. Having more cursed energy than Gojo, right? He's got Sukuna's level of cursed energy, and all the knowledge of Sukuna, and of course, the 10 Shadows, one of the strongest techniques in the series. Yeah, it would be really cool to just see him take that place, and it really would be fitting as well, since Gojo actually raised Megumi, right? Whether you think he raised him from a father point of view, or maybe an older brother, or just a caretaker, right? He was just taking care of Megumi. What's important is that Gojo was actually just raising Megumi since he was a child, and he's been training him up specifically for this. As it was actually said by GEGE himself, that the reason he picked up Megumi is because he's talented, he can be strong, he has a lot of potential, and it would also fulfill Gojo's dream of the next generation being stronger, of them never being alone, right? There's just a whole bunch of strong allies. So if Megumi really is the honored one at the end of the series, you know, after Sukuna's defeated, however he's defeated, right? If Yuji beats him, Megumi, or if they both beat him in a tag team, I would be really cool with Megumi being the strongest at the end, if he lives. And there's also the question of, is Megumi gonna become evil now that he's soaked in evil and all that? I actually don't think that's gonna be the case. I think it's gonna maybe make his technique more evil, maybe he's gonna have more evil inside of him, but overall, I still think he's gonna be a good guy. I mean, you could argue Megumi was already somewhat evil to begin with. Obviously, I'm not saying he was a bad guy. You can be evil and be good, right? I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but what I'm saying is that at least Megumi's goals and where his allegiances lie, they are with the Jujutsu High and humanity, even though he would have some evil in quotes inside of him. And hey, maybe Yuji's gonna give him a talk, you know, maybe even release some of the evil when he goes inside of Sukuna's body to talk to Megumi's soul. If that happens, I really do hope that actually happens. But regardless, I really do think Megumi's gonna be top tier if we ever see him again. But hey, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content. It's kind of crazy theory videos like this one, JJK spoiler videos on chapters when they come out, analysis videos, power scaling, because like I said in the beginning, 90% of people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed. So trust me, if you love JJK, you will not regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to all the members of the channel, it is much appreciated. Thank you guys very much. That's all from me, take care and have a nice day, guys.